All right. So the first one we're going to be looking at is a hybrid attack. So you know what a dictionary attack is now. You know what a mask attack is. Um, but a lot of times you'll be asked to kind of combine them both. So we have what is called a hybrid attack. So there's two variants actually of a hybrid attack. There's attack mode 6 and attack mode 7. And the only difference in them is that attack mode 6 is the word list plus the mask after it. So it's appending the mask to the word list. And attack mode 7 is the mask first and then the word list. So it's pre-pending the mask to the word list. That's the only difference between them. So in a mask attack, we basically had a portion of our password that we already knew. So in our case, it was like the THP dash pass dash, and then it had like the 4 numbers that we put in that mask for. And with the word list, we just didn't know what word it was. We had a dictionary. But a lot of times that won't be the case, right? And in a real life scenario, you'll probably never have that scenario. So what we use is a hybrid attack where it's going to take a word list instead for the first portion before the mask. So instead of THP dash pass and then the 4 numbers, it's going to be a bunch of words from a word list and then try and put like the mask. So it does exponentially increase the time needed to crack it because it is trying 2 different time consuming methods at the same time. But I think it's just best if we just demonstrate this, right? So we have a challenge here called fusion. So we have a password hash is retrieved that needs to be cracked. We have received intel that the password is a Netflix movie or show with a number at the end. Can you crack the password? Right? And we have a password. So we actually have another problem here, is that we don't have a dictionary provided to us, right? Before we had rocky.txt, but this time we have a Netflix movie or show. We don't have like a file lying around that's just like netflix.txt. So we're going to have to look for this one. So there's 2 ways, again, like I said, there's GitHub and there's Kaggle. So what you can do is you can just go in a new tab and search up like Netflix shows dataset, something like that, and then put like site github.com. And this is basically limited to only GitHub URLs, right? And you can see one of the top results on GitHub is actually a Kaggle dataset, because I actually did use Kaggle for this. So the other option would be to go to kaggle.com/datasets, and then just search up like Netflix. And see, well, I think we'll use the most upvoted one, so we'll try this one. You're going to notice there's a bunch of data here, so I'm just going to download this CSV file. Say I already have one downloaded because it's not the first time I'm doing this. All right, let's extract this. We have this over here. Let's open this up. It's going to open in Excel. So the only thing we really care about here is the title. We don't care about anything else. So we can just like take this column here, copy, and then go back into our Linux here. I'm just going to use Y and create. Actually, I probably shouldn't use Y. I'm just going to create a file and call this netflix.txt. Right. So we should have netflix.txt created here. And I'm just going to paste that column. So now we have the title column from Excel pasted into here. So we have a word list ready now. That's step 1. We're done with that. Step 2 is to now do the actual attack, right? So take a look at the challenge, right? So we know it's a Netflix movie or show, and we know there's a number at the end. So we're going to use a hybrid attack because we don't have a fixed string that we know is going to be behind. And we know it's not just going to be a word list. We know there's going to be a mask involved. So it's going to do hashcat dash A 0, not 0, 6, sorry. That's a hybrid attack. And then mode 0, I know this is an MD5 hash because most of them are MD5 usually. I'll put in the hash here, and then we'll put in our netflix.txt file, and then we'll put a question mark D after. So it looks kind of complex. But the breakdown basically is attack mode 6 says use hybrid attack. Dash M0 means use MD5. Then you put the hash in, and then you put in your word list, and then you put in your mask. So it's going to go through every single word in the Netflix dictionary and add a number to it from 0 to 9. Go through all those possibilities and hopefully give us an answer. Oh, okay. I already solved this before. So when you solve a password before, it goes in a thing known as pod file, so it stores it for future. So I can manually disable this. You won't never have to do this on your own. This is just for demonstration. I'll have to do this. So now it'll actually start, hacking and cracking it. But yeah, it's cracked, and it turns out to be Ultraman 8 is our password. We can put this in here, and it's correct. So that's kind of like a hybrid attack. If you know dictionary attack and mask attack, it's not that hard, but it is just knowing that this thing exists is kind of helpful in these competitions. And again, there's a solution guide that kind of goes through all this if you want to try this out on your own and you get stuck or something. Yeah, anyone have any questions? All right, how much time do we have? Perfect, more than 20 minutes because that's how long the next one will take. It's the end goal, I would say, of passive cracking. You get to the point of a rule-based attack. I love these and I hate them at the same time. They suck, but they're also amazing. Because it did take me a while to figure out how to use this. There's very little guides online that teach you how to do this. So it's kind of like experience mostly that taught me this. There are now good guides, but like this is like a few years ago. There wasn't really much. But this is probably the most realistic scenario. So, a lot of times when you're writing a password, let's just say your password is password. Who keeps their password like that? Like even like the most stupid person would not keep their. Okay, Garrett, well, maybe you need to change your password. But a lot of times people do something like they'll replace the A with an at sign. They'll replace like the O with a zero. They'll make the P a capital. They might add like an exclamation mark at the end. And you'll be like, oh my god, that's pretty secure now, right? That is not secure at all. Yeah, and I'm going to show you how to hack that right now. So this is where rules come into play, where you can have, there's these two types of rules. They're known as mutators and additives. So mutators will basically be modifying the stuff. So mutators basically like replacing the A with an at symbol or an O with a zero. And additives are basically like adding an exclamation mark or like removing something. So adding or prepending or like removing stuff. So password like this would be only mutative, and then you add an exclamation mark. Now you're mutating and adding. So this is where rule-based attacks come in, and this is super interesting. It does take a while to get kind of understand, because you will eventually be making your own rule files, which means you will be working with Python to generate those rule files, which is fun. But yeah, so I think this is best demonstrated by actually doing than by me explaining it. So let's try this challenge. This is a hard level challenge. It's known as Diver, which is a pretty big hint into one of the future steps. But let's look at the challenge description, right? So we have a password hash that needs to be cracked. We have received intel that the password is vehicle. It's a vehicle is what it meant to say. I made these challenges today, by the way. So yeah. So the password is a vehicle, but it has some sort of rule affecting it, right? So now we, of course, need to make our own word list for a vehicle, because I don't have vehicles at TXT lying around. I mean, I lied, I do. But like, that's because I did this challenge before. But, you would go your usual route. You go to search, like, I don't know, you could just search of vehicles.txt site github.com, right? And now you have a bunch of vehicles. You've got a bunch of GTA vehicles, maybe that'll work. This is like a pretty good list. Yeah, let's just use this. So yeah, we'll use this. Let's open this up here. All right, cool. So now we have vehicles.txt over here. Cool. So, and then our next step is just to take our hash, right? So, one thing about rule-based attacks, they only work on dictionary attacks. So it's like an additional rule you add to a dictionary attack. So a dictionary attack is like a wordless attack. It's just like a bunch of words, like the Rocky one that we did. And it's just that, but you're mutating or adding stuff to it with rules. So we're gonna take a look over here. Let's just try our standard attack. Attack mode 0, put in our hash, and I pulled up a calculator again. And then we'll put in our vehicles.txt. And so this would be your general approach usually. This would be your normal, traditional dictionary attack. But if, of course, if you execute this, well, I already found the hash because I already did this before. So I have to disable that plot file again. But like, it's exhausted. It couldn't find the password from the vehicle list. So we need to do something here. We need to use something known as rules. So Hashkit already has a bunch of rules that it comes pre-installed with. These are like the most common rules that it's used. And we can actually find them if we just list what's underneath /user, share, hashcat, and then rules. So hashcat has these rules always stored. This is in Kali Linux by default. And you can see it has a bunch of these rules that are pre-installed. And we know that the challenge's name, conveniently, very conveniently, is diver, right? I think there might be a rule here that kind of matches that. Whoa, it's a dive out rule. Maybe that's the one. I don't know, man. It would be a crazy coincidence. Let's try it. So we're gonna take our original command, and we're just gonna go to the end. Obviously, you won't have the pod file disabled on your own end, and you're just gonna do -r and pass in the location of this. So this is user share hashcat /rules and then dive.rule. All right, so that's it. That's literally it. You click enter. Boom, we're done. There's our password. Blimped 636. Now, the word list only had the word blimp in it because blimp is a vehicle, right? The 636 was generated by the rule. You would have never gotten that otherwise. You wouldn't know, like, the challenge didn't tell you, like, oh, there's 3 numbers at the end, right? You had no idea. So you had to use a rule that kind of goes through every single possibility the best way possible while keeping performance. So, like, dive.rule is one good one. There is a rule that does not come pre-installed with Hashcat, but it is pretty common. It's a pretty big meme in the password cracking community. It's called one rule to rule them all. And it's basically like a giant rule that brute forces every goddamn possibility. I think the last time I tried that on like the most basic password, it said it's going to take 4 years to crack it. So I definitely don't suggest using that. Even though it would technically work, it would just take 4 years. I don't think any competition is. You'll be graduated by then. Like, but yeah. So now that might seem pretty easy, right? Like you're like, okay, that was pretty chill. Like you just found a rule, but like you won't always have a pre-existing rule that works. See, do I have another slide or I don't think I do. Okay. Yeah, so let's try the second one here. So this second challenge here is an expert level challenge, which is the highest difficulty that our website goes to. This is the highest level type of challenge you will ever see in a password cracking challenge. Basically in any CTF. All right, so this one, we have to make our own root file. So let's take a look at what the description is, right? So password hash is retrieved that needs to be cracked. We know it's based on animals, so we got another word list that we need to find. But there's some weird prepending and appending with numbers and common special characters. Can you crack the hash? So we do have a hint here that we're going to be prepending and appending some numbers and some common special characters. But we don't know what we're going to be appending. We don't know how many we're going to be appending. So we'll have to create a rule file to kind of go through all of these. Well, our first step is to first get our word list ready. We know it's going to be animals. So you can basically Google up like, animals.txt, site github.com. That'll probably give us, yeah, there. We got a list of animals here. That works pretty well. So let's just click that, click raw, save. We got animals.txt. I already have it, so I'll just replace it. Doesn't matter. And then I'll open up my Explorer window. We have our animals.txt here. Cool. So we have our dictionary ready. Except we don't. Completely forgot about this one thing. You'll notice that in this dictionary, let me just zoom in a bit. It is all the animal names, but a lot of these have like spaces in between them. They have capitalized letters. And before we ever use a dictionary with rules, it is always like a given rule to sanitize your word list. And that basically means to make it more simplistic. So at the end result, what your goal is you have to take this word list, your end goal, your word list should always be only lowercase letters with no space, just letters. That's all it should be, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, copy this. We'll make a new Excel file. Excel is really good for stuff like this. So I'm just going to put this over here. And they're all white colored because I don't know. Let's make it red. So we have our word list over here. And we're just going to we're first going to just go here. Control H is to replace. You can also just do Control F, which will open up find, and then just click replace. And I'm just going to put in space and just replace all. That's just going to remove all the spaces. Pretty simple way. And then our next step is to make it lowercase. So I'm just going to do equals lower, put in this, click enter. That just gives us a lower one for this. And then you can just click this thing over here, double click it, and it just does it for the entire column. So now we have our completely sanitized list over here. Ideally, you also want to Control H and remove like commas and parentheses and like all special characters. So like this American Buffalo, it needs to remove the comma and all that stuff. But for this challenge in particular, it's not required. Like you don't need to. So let's copy this and let's replace our existing animals.txt with this new one. Just Control A, Control V, and now we have our sanitized version. So first step is sanitization. We're done with that. Now our next step is to create our rule. So there's this really good guide that I found, which is like a cheat sheet in a sense, which is also in the solution guide. So let's see, here we go. It's right here. So this cheat sheet is a really good one. Again, it's on the website underneath this challenge. And it basically contains like a bunch of character sets and like a bunch of rules about creating rule files. So what is a rule file? I think our first step, let's just try. Let's just try taking a look at an existing rule file. Okay, that didn't work. I'll go manually, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we have our existing rules. So let's just take a look at like the dive.rule that we used earlier. We'll just open it up with Notepad, see what it has. And you notice it's just a text file with like a bunch of stuff in it, right? It's not anything that special. But you do notice there's like a bunch of this weird syntax over here. These are just comments. This doesn't matter. But this stuff over here does matter. So what does all this stuff mean, right? It looks pretty complex, but in reality, it is very simple. There's two symbols in this challenge that you need to know. So I'm only going to be messing with additives. which is like adding stuff to the string, not messing with anything. But let's create our rule file first. Let's just create a blank thing. We'll call this myrule.rule. All right, and then I think we can do notepad.exe on myrule. Yeah, so we have myrule opened up over here, and it's an empty text file, right? We don't have anything on here yet. So there's two things that you need to know of. There's dollar symbol, and then there's the apostrophe symbol. Apostrophe? No, it's not apostrophe. What am I missing? The power symbol, right? So the dollar symbol means add this to the end of the string. The power symbol means add this to the before the string, right? So if I have $A, it means every single word that it goes through in the word list, add an A to the end of it. Try that. And if I do power symbol A, it means add an A to before that word and try all the possibilities there. And then if you do something like this means add ABC before every single word. And then you can do like a multiple ones. Like you can do like AB and then like A. So this should just be like add ABC to every word and then try AB before every word and then try just the letter A before every single word. So the power symbol means before, dollar symbol means after. So we know in our challenge over here, rule maker, is that it's going to be prepended or appended with numbers or common special characters. So let's just try doing that. So we know we're going to have numbers and special characters. So if you go over here, they have a nice reference character sets that you can use. So we can see we have all the numbers over here, and we have all the special characters over here. Those are the two that we need to combine, right? But basically what this means is we need to take this and basically do something like this. $A, or sorry, $0, $1, $2, $3, and keep on doing that for every single one of them. And then you have to do that same thing again for these to be like, dollar exclamation mark, and then be like dollar quotation. You'll have to do that manually for every single one. And then you're going to have to do the exact same thing for putting it before. So then you're going to have to do like, before is prepend 0, or like prepend 1, prepend 2. And you can see like this would take ages, right? You don't want to do it this way. But you can easily write like a 4-5 line Python script to automate this for you. Even if you've never used Python before, what I'm going to show you should be easy enough to follow. So let's write our Python script here. We're going to call this, just call this gen.py. This is going to generate, right? And then I'm just going to open this. You can use Vim or like a Linux editor. I like using Visual Studio Code, so I'm just going to open it up with Visual Studio Code. And want to trust. So we're going to generate our rule file. So we first need our character set. So we're just going to do char set. This is just going to be our character set. I'm just going to put this. This is going to be like all the possibilities. So it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then all these special characters as well. But Python does have like a weird formatting thing, which any coding language does, because it'll notice that this quote over here and just close the string off before and just think everything else is a comment. So you basically have to put like a backslash to say, hey, treat this as a double quotes. Don't treat it as code. Treat it as a string. And you also have to do that for the actual backslash itself, because you can't just have a backslash on its own. You need to have 2 backslashes represent 1 backslash on its own. There's a thing known as escape characters, which you'll learn about if you ever take Python. But that's generally what it is. You don't have to worry too much about it. Just anytime you see a quotation, put a backslash before it. And anytime you see a backslash on its own, put a backslash before it. That's it. That's all you need to know for now. So our first step is we want to generate, I'm just going to comment, generate prepend rules. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a for loop. I'm just going to do for I in character sets. That means for every character I in this character set, just print out. And we know the prepend means we need to have a power symbol, and then just add I. And this is just going to be the prepend rule. That's it. And then same thing for the append rule. Just going to defer. I like to use a different variable now, so I'll use J. You could use I again. And then, appending is a dollar symbol. And then we'll just add in the character. So what is this going to do? It's going to go 0 and then add this thing plus 0. So it's going to be power 0, power 1, power 2. It's going to automate it in the entire loop. It's going to do this twice. One for prepend, one for append. So now what happens is if I run this program, so if I do python gen.py, well, it created the rule, right? It's created that the apostrophe is like append before, prepend, and then dollar means appended after, right? But we need to put this into a file. So we're just going to override this into my rule file. And this operator basically means take the output of the program, put it into this file instead. So it's just going to take whatever this prints and put it into my rule. So now when I do this, you can see my rule, the text file is now filled with the rule. And that's it. That's our rule. I know this is a bit more complex. It does take a while to get used to, but that is our rule file done. We have our animals dictionary ready, or it's animals, right? Yeah, we have our animals dictionary ready. We have our own rule file ready. So let's try it. Let's do hashcat. We'll do dictionary tag. We know it's going to be an MD5 hash. We need to get the hash itself, so let's copy the hash. We have our hash over there. And then we're going to put in our animals.txt, and then we're going to put in our rule file, which is myrule.rule. We're going to click enter. I already solved this, so it's going to think I have to disable the pod file, but you will notice something. We did all this hard work, but it's exhausted. It didn't find it. There's a problem here, right? And earlier, when I mentioned, it said we're prepending and appending numbers and common special characters. But it didn't tell us how many. It tells us we have like a rule to do before and after. But if you look at a rule file, we're only doing one character before or after. It could be 2, it could be 3. Who knows? So I mean, what you're telling me is like you might have to like generate like a permutation combination and make like $0 and then make like this thing copied and then $1 and $2, and basically create like a 3,000 line rule file is one way to do it. That's actually how I did this challenge the first time, just so you know, because I'm an idiot. I didn't know there's a special feature known as rule stacking. So we have our current rule file done, but this is only going to append or prepend one character. We know it can be more. So what we can actually do is we can go in our command, and when we do -r my rule, we can just do -r my rule again. And this is going to do 2 characters now. That's all you had to do. And it'll still not find it. So we'll try 3 now. We'll just try stacking them. It's going to take a lot longer as soon as it increases. But we did it. We got the password. It's cracked. So this was the final password that I was using, right? It was -monkey!1. And if you test this, we did it.